Hey everyone, Morgan here. So we are talking about page number 6 of the Unit 2 lecture outline. That's the one that is called Change and Nomenclature. And we're going to be taking our first look at the periodic table today. Okay, so I've given you this periodic table kind of as an outline. It's not the most detailed periodic table you've ever seen, okay? But it's got most of the detail in it that you're going to need for today's discussion. Okay, now these numbers that go across the top, these are going to be called the group numbers, and they are quite useful to us. Okay, now the basic structure of the table starts with this thick black line that zigzags back and forth, which you see over here. On the left side of that line, we have what we call the metals. And on the right side of that, we have what we call the nonmetals. Okay? And then the properties of the metals and the nonmetals we'll talk an awful lot about in Unit 5. It's the end of the first semester here. Okay? So, group number 1, when these elements form ions, they always form +1 ions. And group number 2 always form +2 ions. Okay? Group 13, it starts here with boron, will be +3 ions. Now for groups 3 through 12, the charges that they form are quite variable. So we will deal with those a little bit later on. Now, group number 14 can form plus or -4s, okay? Can go either way. Group 15, they tend to form -3s, 16 -2s, 17 -1s, and group 18, which are the noble gases, they do not tend to form ions at all, okay? So their charges would be zeros, okay? So, these ones down here, all right? These, we are just not going to worry about. Don't worry about these, okay? Most of these, not all, but most of these do not exist in nature. They're man-made. All the ones from 93 on are only man-made, okay? All right, so now, the metals versus the nonmetals, the left side will be the metals. The right side, the nonmetals. Now, the metals tend to form positive ions, and the nonmetals tend to form negative ions. All right? Now, we have names for those. Cations are the positive ions. And you'll notice that I kind of write out cations using a positive sign for the T to help us remember, okay? And anions. Anions are negative ions. Okay? Now, the charge is determined, as we said up here, by the group number or by the position that an element is in the periodic table. And that is going to become a really important thing for us over the next couple of weeks as we are working in formula writing. So we're going to do some exercises identifying charges, over and over again. Okay? Now, often what we will do is we will use this term valence to refer to that. And we talked about this a little bit earlier. Valence is outermost electrons. And I think we even made reference to how some people use that as a term with draperies. okay, with curtains in your house, and how the outermost drape that goes around the top of a set of curtains that hides all the hardware for those can be referred to as the valence, or sometimes pronounced valence. Okay, and the valence number, as some older folks might refer to it, is really what is telling you the charge. Okay, so to recap all this, the most important points: the metals are on the left side, the nonmetals are on the right side. The charge that an ion has is determined by what group the element is in the periodic table. Group number 1 form the plus 1s, group number 2 form the plus 2s. Group 13 form the plus 3s, group 14 can be the plus 4s or the minus 4s. Group 15, minus 3s, group 16, minus 2s, group 17, minus 1s, and group 18, the zeros. They do not form ions. The center group here, which are typically called the transition metals, or sometimes the transition elements, have variable charges. They can form many charges, okay? So we'll have to deal with that later on. We won't worry about them yet, and we won't worry about these at all. A lot of these are radioactive, man-made, okay? And we just don't see them popping up in the type of things that we do. And if we ever do deal with them, you will be told what those charges are. Okay, that's page 6, and we'll tune into the next video to deal with page number 7.